When Carl Jung spoke about the persona, he was not simply talking about the masks we wear, he was revealing one of the most profound truths about human existence. The persona is the face we show the world, the role we play to belong, to be accepted, to be safe. We create this mask because society demands it. We create it because we learn early in life that who we are, in our rawest form, may not always be welcomed. So we hide, we edit, we filter. And that mask becomes our passport to moving through the world. Now, let me ask you something. How many of the people in your life know only the mask? How many of them see only the carefully constructed version of you, the version that plays by the rules, the version that smiles even when your heart is breaking, the version that nods politely instead of speaking your truth? Here is the heart of the matter. The people who only ever engage with your persona are not the people who matter most in your life. They may be part of your circle, they may share your space, they may even think they know you, but they do not. They do not know your soul. They do not know the part of you that is raw and unpolished, the part of you that wrestles with meaning, the part of you that is still becoming. Jung warned us that the persona, while necessary, can become a prison. And so often, the people around us reinforce that prison. They meet the mask and reward it. They validate it. They expect it. And over time, we start confusing the mask with our true identity. We start living for applause instead of authenticity. We start surrounding ourselves with people who only want to see us as flat, one-dimensional versions of ourselves. Think about social media for a moment. In our current culture, the persona has been amplified to a level Jung could never have imagined. We curate our feeds, filter our photos, present highlight reels instead of the full story. And then we attract people into our lives who respond to that curated self. They like the picture, but they don't know the pain. They celebrate the achievement, but they don't understand the sacrifice. They cheer for the persona, but they are strangers to the self. And if we're not careful, we mistake their validation for connection. We confuse their attention with love. But it isn't love. It isn't connection. It's simply affirmation of the mask. And the mask can never satisfy the hunger of the soul. Jung would remind us that individuation, the journey of becoming whole, requires us to move beyond the persona. To drop the mask. To live more truthfully. And the moment we do that, something happens. The people who are only attached to the mask begin to fade away. They no longer see what they want to see in you. They no longer find the version of you that made them comfortable. And suddenly, you find yourself asking, where did everybody go? That is the price of authenticity. But it is also the gift. Because when the mask falls away, the crowd thins, and what remains are the people who are not afraid of your truth. The ones who can sit with your silence, your shadow, your struggle. The ones who love you not because you shine, but because you are real. Let me give you a story. I once spoke with a woman who had spent years building an image of perfection, the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect career woman. Every post on her social media was carefully staged. Every conversation in public was polished. And everyone praised her, "You have it all together. You are an inspiration. You are amazing." But inside, she was crumbling. The marriage was broken, the career was draining, the pressure was suffocating. And when she finally broke down and told the truth, when she removed the mask, many of those people who had praised her perfection disappeared. They didn't want the truth. They didn't want the mess. They only wanted the persona. But something beautiful also happened. A few people remained. A few people leaned in closer. And those few became her real tribe, her true companions. For the first time, she felt seen, not admired. And that, my friends, is the difference between persona-based relationships and soul-based relationships. So ask yourself, how many of the people in your life know yourself, and how many only know your persona? How many would still be there if you stopped performing, if you stopped pretending, if you stopped curating your life to be palatable? Now, I'm not saying the persona is always bad. We need it. It's the way we navigate the social world. You can't walk into every room bearing your rawest truth. Society isn't built for that. But what Jung wanted us to understand is that when we confuse the mask with the self, we lose ourselves. And when we surround ourselves only with people who want the mask, we starve the soul. I want to say something very clearly here. The people who are only interested in your persona are not necessarily bad people. They're not enemies. They may even serve an important role in your life: colleagues, acquaintances, neighbors, casual friends. But they are not the ones who belong to your deepest circle. They are not the ones to turn to when you are breaking. They are not the ones who will walk with you through the fire. And sometimes, the tragedy is that we spend more time trying to impress those people, the mask watchers, than we do nurturing the relationships that could truly feed us. We try to please the crowd instead of feeding the soul. What would it look like if you chose differently? What would it look like if you allowed yourself to be seen as you really are? What if you gave yourself permission to drop the act? Who would remain? Who would disappear? And who might show up for the very first time, finally seeing the opening to love the real you? Let me tell you something I know for sure: when you live behind the mask, you attract people who love the mask. But when you dare to live from yourself, your true, whole, messy, evolving self, you attract people who love you. And that difference is everything. But here's the challenge: many of us are afraid. Afraid that if we remove the mask, we'll be rejected. Afraid that if we speak the truth, we'll be abandoned. Afraid that if we stop performing, we'll stand alone. And yes, some people will leave. Some will no longer recognize you. Some will even criticize you for changing. But the ones who remain, the ones who draw closer, those are your people. That is your real tribe. Jung often said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege comes with pruning. To live in your truth, you must be willing to lose those who only ever wanted the illusion. And so, the people who are not important in your life are the ones who are attached to the illusion. They cannot love the truth of you because they never knew it. And that is okay. That is their journey, not yours. Your task is not to drag them with you. Your task is to walk faithfully toward yourself, trusting that the ones who are meant for you will see you and love you for who you really are. When you begin to live without the mask, you discover something extraordinary: freedom. The freedom to speak without editing, to love without performing, to exist without apology. And that freedom is the soil in which real relationships grow. So I want you to reflect: who in your life only loves the mask? Who disappears when you stop performing? And who leans in closer when you show your truth? That's how you know. That's how you discern who is truly important and who is not. Because at the end of the day, persona-based connections are shallow waters. They can refresh you for a moment, but they cannot sustain you. Soul-based connections, on the other hand, are deep rivers. They carry you, they hold you, they nourish you. And my hope for each of you is this: that you choose the river over the shallow pool. That you stop exhausting yourself for applause, and start living for alignment. That you have the courage to be seen, really seen, so that the people who are meant for your soul can finally find you. So here's what I want you to remember: the people who only ever see your mask are not the people who matter most. Honor them if you must, but don't confuse their attention for love. Don't confuse their applause for connection. Love that is based on the persona is fragile. Love that is based on the self is unbreakable. And here is the truth I want to leave with you: you deserve to be loved for who you are, not for the mask you wear. The people who cannot see beyond the mask are not the ones you need to keep. The people who can, those who love your soul in all its light and shadow, those are the ones who matter. Choose them, and let the rest fall away. There comes a moment in all of our lives when we realize something both painful and liberating: not everyone who started with us is meant to finish with us. Not everyone who belonged to our past belongs to our future. And that realization, my friends, is one of the hardest truths of growth, but also one of the most freeing. Carl Jung spoke of life as a series of transformations, an unfolding journey where the psyche, the soul, evolves through stages. Each stage has its own energy, its own calling, its own purpose. And certain people belong to certain stages. They fit the vibration of that time in your life. They matched the person you were back then. But as you evolve, as you shed old skins and step into new dimensions of yourself, some people cannot make that leap with you. They are woven into your past chapters, not your future story. And yet, how many of us insist on dragging those people along anyway? How many of us hold on, out of loyalty, out of guilt, out of nostalgia, to relationships that no longer nourish us, no longer grow us, no longer align with who we're becoming? Let me paint a picture. Imagine your life as a book. In Chapter 1, there are certain characters. They are essential in that chapter, they move the plot forward, they teach you lessons, they create memories. By Chapter 5, the story has shifted. Some of those characters are no longer central. By Chapter 10, some of them may not appear at all. And yet, the story continues. The narrative deepens. New characters emerge, new settings unfold, and the protagonist, that's you, keeps growing. Now imagine if you forced every character from Chapter 1 to stay in Chapter 10. The story would collapse under the weight of characters who no longer belong. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't flow. And neither does your life when you insist on keeping everyone from your past in your present and future. Jung believed that growth requires letting go. To become whole, to become who you truly are, you must shed what no longer serves you. That includes relationships. That includes people. That includes attachments that may have once been beautiful but are now outdated. I remember a man who once shared with me that he felt stuck in his life, unable to move forward. He kept saying, "I don't understand. I have so many friends, I have people around me all the time, but I feel empty, I feel stagnant." And as we spoke, I asked him, "Tell me about these friends. How long have you known them?" And he said, "Most of them I've known since childhood." And I asked, "Do they share your values now? Do they share your vision? Do they inspire you?" And he was silent. Because he realized that the people he was clinging to belonged to his past, the boy he once was, but not to the man he was becoming. This is the paradox of growth: we want transformation, but we resist the shedding that comes with it. We want to step into a new season, but we keep dragging winter coats into summer, holding on to what no longer fits. Think about your own life. Think about the friendships, the relationships, the associations you've carried with you. How many of them belong to a version of you that no longer exists? The high school self, the college self, the early career self. They knew that version of you. They loved that version of you. But do they know the self you are today? Do they love the self you are becoming? It is not betrayal to outgrow someone. It is not cruelty to move forward without them. It is simply the rhythm of life. Trees shed leaves. Snakes shed skin. Butterflies shed cocoons. And we, too, must shed people who no longer belong to our future. Now, let's talk about why it's so difficult. Because it is difficult. We hold on for three main reasons: memory, obligation, and fear. Memory tells us, but we've been through so much together. Obligation tells us, but I owe them my loyalty. And fear whispers, if I let them go, I'll be alone. But here's what I know: memory honors the past, but it cannot dictate the future. Obligation is only sacred when it flows both ways. Loyalty without reciprocity becomes bondage. And fear? Fear is always a liar. The truth is, letting go creates space. The truth is, the future always brings new companions, aligned companions, if you have the courage to release the old. One of the most dangerous things you can do to your growth is to romanticize the past so much that you keep living in it. Nostalgia can be a prison. It can keep you tied to people and patterns that no longer match your evolution. Yes, the past shaped you. Yes, the people who were there mattered. But their season is over. Their purpose has been fulfilled. You cannot keep replaying old chapters and expect to move into a new ending. I remember once hearing someone say, "Don't spend your present making payments on your past." And that struck me deeply. How often do we keep investing energy into relationships that have already expired? We pour time, attention, and love into connections that are no longer alive, just because we are afraid of what it means to let go. But every time we do that, we rob our future of the space it needs to unfold. Jung called this the process of transcendence, moving beyond the old structures, old roles, old identities, into a larger, fuller self. And part of transcendence is discerning who belongs with you in the new and who must remain in the old. Now, let me be very clear: letting go does not mean dishonoring. It doesn't mean you erase the past, or that you stop valuing the role someone once played in your life. No. Gratitude is always necessary. You can be deeply grateful for someone's presence in your past and still acknowledge that they don't belong in your future. Gratitude allows you to release with love, not with bitterness. And let's talk about that release. Because many of us wait for some grand conflict, some dramatic falling out, to justify letting someone go. But it doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes, it's as simple as allowing distance to grow. Sometimes, it's choosing not to force a connection that has naturally faded. Sometimes, it's saying to yourself, I bless them, I thank them, and I let them be where they are, as I continue where I must go. The real danger is in forcing what no longer fits. Because when you cling to people from your past who no longer align with your growth, you end up shrinking yourself to remain familiar to them. You play small so they won't feel threatened. You suppress your truth so they won't feel uncomfortable. And in doing so, you betray your own becoming. Listen to me. The people who truly belong to your future will not be intimidated by your growth. They will celebrate it. They will be inspired by it. They will walk with you into the unknown, not try to pull you back into the familiar. That is how you know. That is the test. So I want to invite you to ask yourself, right here, right now, Who am I carrying into my future that actually belongs to my past? Who am I keeping close out of habit, out of guilt, out of fear? And what might open up in my life if I released them with gratitude and made space for what's next? Because here is the truth: the universe, God, life itself, whatever you call it, cannot fill a hand that is already full. If your hands are clutching yesterday, you cannot receive tomorrow. And I want you to think about this not just with people, but with versions of yourself. Because sometimes, the person we need to release is not another, but our old self. The younger you, the smaller you, the self that survived but now must step aside so the fuller self can emerge. And with that release often comes the release of people who only ever knew that old self. There is a deep wisdom in understanding this. There is power in choosing to honor the past, but not live in it. There is freedom in blessing what was and moving toward what is becoming. So here is what I want you to remember: not everyone who started with you will finish with you. Not everyone who was in your yesterday is meant to be in your tomorrow. And that is not a failure. That is not rejection. That is simply life unfolding as it should. When you let go of those who belong to your past, you make room for the ones who belong to your future. You make room for relationships that reflect the self you are becoming, not just the self you used to be. You make room for companions who can climb the new mountain with you, instead of holding you down in the valley you've already left behind. And so, my closing thought for you is this: release with gratitude. Walk forward with courage. And trust that the future will bring you the people who belong to your becoming. Because the ones who are truly meant for you are never left behind, they are waiting for you ahead. Do not chain your future to people who only ever belonged to your past. Thank them, bless them, release them, and step boldly into the life that is still waiting for you. The mask may win you applause, but only the truth will win you love.